What's up, YouTube fam? This is your girl, Mrs. Tony Two Times, and we back with another video. Let's hear from tonight's sponsor, and then we'll jump right into it. This video is brought to you by Cool Green Clothing. Cool Green Clothing is a Baltimore-based clothing line that started back in 2018 and has been growing strong ever since. Make sure you follow Cool Green Clothing on Facebook and IG at Cool Green Clothing, and check out their website, coolgreenclothing.com, where you can find the latest cool green fashions and hats, women's apparel, and the latest men's collection. Remember, if you ain't coolin' and getting the green, you're in the way.
Don't know now, you know, man. Come check them out, man. Flat out.
Oh, they
That's
know now. They waking up. They
That's all
waking
we
up.
doing. You
They
feel me?
waking
It's
up.
a whole lot of that shit going on right now. With them.
Alrighty, bro.
You see the hat dripping, you see the shirt dripping.
Exactly, my nigga dripping all on the cement out this bitch, man.
You feel me? We dripping
my
all
man dripping all on the cement.
Yes, sir. You feel me?
Man.
Yeah.
How to do it, man.
Shout out, man. Shout out to Cool Green, man. You feel me? Variety of stuff, man. You feel me? Good dude for real. You know what I mean? His design is impeccable, man. You know what I mean? It speaks for itself.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It speaks for itself for real.
For itself, man.
But who could really rock it like I rock it? You heard?
No one, man.
Welcome back, fam. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, I invite you to join the Two Times fam. Tap that subscribe button, hit the notification bell to get notified of all uploads. Be sure to like this video if you're rocking with the content. Comment down below and share your thoughts. Of course, always keeping it respectful. Share this video with everyone you know. Make sure you watch till the end to hear the full story. In this video, we will be discussing the case of Teresa McLeod and her fiance Robert Harris, who, according to police, orchestrated a hit on her life and then blamed it on a black man. Let's get right into it. Teresa McLeod and Robert Harris met through friends and started dating in the early 90s. In 1992, Robert moved in with Teresa, her mother, and young son. They got engaged 3 years later in September 1995. Teresa had taken nursing classes at Anne Arundel Community College and worked as an office manager in a Southwest Baltimore doctor's office. She owned a two-story house in the Pasadena community of Elizabeth's Landing. Teresa's mother described her as the life of the party, bubbly, and an overall fun-loving person who liked to cut up. Teresa doted on her man, Robert. According to her mother, Robert could do no wrong in Teresa's eyes. Despite her feelings, family members felt that the love wasn't really reciprocated back to her from Robert. They more so thought he was using her. However, Teresa's family did appreciate the way Robert treated Teresa's son. Additionally, family members stated that Teresa was the breadwinner in the relationship and maintained a steady job while supporting Robert in his odd jobs and his pursuit to start his own oil changing business. According to reports, Teresa's mother stated that she often spoke about taking out a life insurance policy on herself. Her mother recalled her joking with Rob, saying that, "Boy, if anything happens to me, you're gonna be sitting pretty. Don't worry about it." The couple was planning for a September wedding. Teresa's mom said that her daughter had already made a down payment on her wedding dress. However, as the relationship went on, Teresa began to become frustrated with Robert's financial situation. Her family said Robert had written her several checks to pay bills and cover household expenses, but they kept bouncing, some relatives recalled. On Friday, January 26, 1996, Teresa and Robert attended her son's basketball game. Teresa then returned home, but according to family members, Robert had disappeared for 45 minutes. He returned later to pick up Teresa, telling his fiancée that they were going to dinner at Kibby's Restaurant and Lounge in Baltimore, Teresa's mother recalled. At around 9:45 p.m., police received a 911 call from Robert saying that he and his fiancée were robbed and shot. When the officers arrived at the secluded parking lot on the 100 block of Joe Avenue in the southwest Baltimore neighborhood of Violetville, they found Teresa fatally wounded with several shots. Robert had a single wound in his left thigh. BPD said Robert told investigators that an armed black man in a camouflage jacket and black and white pants ordered him and Teresa from their 1989 Ford Taurus. Robert then reportedly said the man demanded Teresa's purse and started shooting for no apparent reason after she handed it over. Detectives said that they thought it was overkill. It had to be personal. Teresa had several wounds, while Robert only had one. Police also discovered $48 in Teresa's purse. She still had on her jewelry, including a Gucci watch, a gold ring with 7 diamonds in it, and gold earrings, which were all left behind. That, of course, didn't seem to make sense if it was an attempted robbery. Why would the assailant leave behind such valuables? Police began to see the discrepancies in Robert's version of events that night, and his story fell apart. As the investigation into Teresa's case continued over the weekend, witnesses led them to the alleged gunman, Russell Brill of Baltimore, who was not a black man as Robert first reported to the police on the scene. Police alleged that Robert agreed to pay Russell $20,000 for a staged robbery and provided him with the weapon used in the slaying. Police were able to gather information from several witnesses who were family and friends of Russell that led them to find the used weapon buried in London Park Cemetery. Russell was arrested that Sunday after the slaying and charged with first-degree murder and a felony handgun violation. Detectives charged Robert with similar charges, but including conspiracy and solicitation. According to police and Teresa's relatives, the motive was over a life insurance policy that was worth $150,000 or $250,000, in which Robert thought he would cash in on if Teresa was no longer alive. However, Teresa's 9-year-old son and mother were listed as the beneficiaries at the time of her death. Teresa hadn't yet placed him as the beneficiary. Robert didn't know that. Both Russell and Robert were set to go to trial in 1997. However, Russell, the alleged gunman, pleaded guilty on March 12 to his charges. He received a sentence of 50 years in prison. Russell testified in Robert's trial. He said that although he initially told police that he had slain Teresa after Robert promised him $20,000 to do so, it was actually Robert who shot Teresa. Robert maintained his innocence, saying that he loved Teresa and wanted to marry her. Robert's attorney told the jury that his client sold his blicky to Russell before the shooting, and Russell set out to rob him and Teresa instead of paying the money that he owed. Robert's lawyer said Robert initially thought a black man had done it because the shooting occurred in a parking lot that was pitch black, and the robber was wearing a ski mask that covered his face. BPD Detective Daryl Massey also testified against Robert, saying that when he interviewed Robert after the shooting, he told him that he sold a Glock to a friend of his friend, Mimi, whose name he didn't know, about 2 weeks before. The detective said Robert would put his fingers to the bridge of his nose when talking about the shootings and make noises as if he were sobbing. But when he removed his hands, there were no tears, only redness where his fingers had been, to the point that his fingernails had made indentations in his skin, according to court records. He also said that police found a magazine for the same weapon used in the slaying in the car the couple was driving. The state also had another witness who was locked up with both Russell and Robert. He said he met Russell in jail first, and Russell told him he was locked up for something he didn't do. And he shared his recollection of what happened that night near Violetville Park. The witness then said he met Robert, who he allegedly asked if he knew Russell, and the witness told him that he did. The witness then went on to say that Robert offered him $1,000 to say that Russell confessed to the crime and to help exonerate him. The witness then took this information to his lawyer, allegedly. He then testified that Robert asked him a second time and offered him an additional $500, but he declined and reported that to his attorney also. The witness was also given a plea deal in an unrelated case and was sentenced to a total of 45 years. Robert was ultimately convicted in 1997 and sentenced to 2 concurrent life sentences with no possibility of parole. However, in 2009, his conviction was overturned after he appealed. His attorneys filed a motion saying that the state withheld information directly or indirectly when it came to the plea offers that was given to Russell and the jailhouse witness. Both men would eventually file a motion for their sentences to be reduced after they testified, and both were granted a reduced sentence. Russell got 30 years instead of 50, and the jailhouse snitch got 25 years instead of the original 45-year deal. His new trial began in 2012, and Robert was again convicted, and he was again sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The 2012 conviction was appealed, and Robert was given yet another trial because the trial judge did not allow the defense to cross-examine the lead detective, Daryl Massey, in the case regarding alleged overtime abuse by the detective. The defense argued that the overtime issue struck at the detective's overall credibility. On January 13th, 2017, the state secured a guilty verdict on all charges in Robert's third trial. Robert was again sentenced to life plus 20 years. Wow, fam. What do you guys think of this story? Comment down below and let me know. I think it's really sad that her family had to go through 3 trials in over 20 years. It seemed like every time they would find some kind of closure, the tragedy had to be replayed all over again in the courts. Hopefully the family has found some sense of peace after the third conviction. Teresa seemed like a lovely lady full of life. May she continue to rest in peace, and I hope her family is doing as well as they can be. Now, the part about him blaming this on a black man is something that we sadly hear very often. It's always a sense of profiling and seeming like black men are the only ones that commit crimes. But in this case, we can see that's not the case. So to some extent, I guess shout out to officials for doing their part and realizing that a black man was not responsible. Well, all right, fam, that's it for this episode of the Baltimore Way. Thank you for making it to the end. I invite you to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Tap the notification bell, comment, like, and share. This your girl, Mrs. Tony 2 times, and I'm out.